I want to talk to you about my friend Charlie Crawford. He's a 10-time NFR qualifier.
Charlie Crawford, time to just shake it out and win. Got it on him fast, set
there
up.
We are.
Here's a day
Nice
money
run.
lead. You betcha 3-8.
That's an absolute perfect run. Timing was perfect from the time the first swing is up. He's got the control. Charlie made it happen by being timed up with his horse with the steer, and being able to not just rope, but to pick that steer's head up without changing the momentum for the heeler at all.
We know his beautiful wife, Jackie, all three of their beautiful children, the founder of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, which this year will exceed $1 million raised for military and first responders. I've said it 1,000 times. Charlie, it's time to rope, nod and ride, whip and spur. I want to welcome you to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Let's ride.
What I do when a steer changes directions. A lot of times your steers can make a few different directions. They can go to the right, they can go to the left, they can slow down, they can go left and right and slow down. Those steers usually suck. They're one of the hardest ones. But let's start off with a steer that goes to the right. That's probably more common in your lower numbered ropings because they have a heeling barrier, they have a flagger out there, and they're trying to get those steers trained to go to the right so that way when the header does rope, they have plenty of arena so the heeler can throw before they get into the left fence. And so where I break my horse out in the box has a lot to do with what's going to create my shot. And so if the vibe of the roping, if the steers are going to the right, I'm going to try to get my horse to go to the first quarter part of the box. That way I'm already headed towards the steer. The goal is to get there and get in position and be ready to rope before that steer gets on the fence and makes a harder shot. So what start I get is important. What lane I choose in the front of the box is important to get there and get that shot set up as fast as I can before it gets harder. I see a lot of guys that get in position and then swing through it and almost create a harder shot at the three-quarter part of the arena than they do if they get a good start and get ready to rope when they get in the first quarter part of the arena. Your steer that wants to go left. These are a lot of times your rodeo type steers, more advanced type steers, because at the rodeos, the heelers, they jumping out, they're getting out in front, they're trying to step that steer left, and that header's trying to get them fast, and so the heeler's trying to get up and get around the steer, and that creates a lot of steers stepping left and going left. And so that's where I'll break my horse to the middle or three-quarter part of the box, at the front of the box. That way I don't get cut off. And if I know that steer's going left or stepping left, I'm going to hit the middle or three-quarters. That way I make sure that I'm staying in front of that steer. So when I bring my first swing up, I'm staying in that lane to where I have that throwing lane. I can see the steer's horns or my horse's head ain't blocking my view because I didn't get a correct lane and I got cut off. So I'll widen out a little bit right there when I know that steer's coming left. And then when I rope, I want to push out in front of that steer just enough right there. Then I can slow down and keep control of the steer's head. Now, it's a little bit different when you have a steer that goes left and you're behind a heeling barrier. So at a jackpot, and when that steer goes left and you rope and that heeler's still trying to get there, you've got to be able to push out in front just a little bit to make sure you have his head, but you've got to slow it down enough to get the heeler a chance to get caught up and get in position and then go ahead and bring him back up the pin. And so those ones are pretty tough behind a heeling barrier. When they go left and right, those are tough. That's where you see a lot of pulled shoes, a lot of horses overreaching because they might step. Maybe that steer starts out straight, goes to the left, and then you move the horse over. Then he goes back to the right when the horse switches leads, and it makes it pretty hard for a horse not to overreach, pull shoes, things like that. And then now you got to rope and then slow down and then now turn left. Horse switches leads again. This makes for a hard handle, but that's where that left hand has to be key. When that steer steps over, you got to be able to watch where those horns are going. They'll kind of tell you where they're wanting to go by where their head's at. So when you see that head stepping left, you got to be able to react with that left hand and that right leg and move that horse over. And then when you get that throwing lane, now if he decides to step back to the right, now the opposite, and now that left hand has to get on the left-hand side of that horse's neck, and that left leg has to be applied and pushed back over and try to create as good of a shot as you can with that left hand. And then once it gets tight, then step him back over again and bring him up the pin. Those ones are hard when they go left and right or right and left. And then you got one that wants to slow down. These are a little bit more of your older steers, barn cattle, that they get smart. They get kind of getting so used to getting caught, they just, as soon as they feel it coming, just close their eyes, lower their head, and slow down. That's when you get up there closer and you read that, usually their heads will start dropping. That's when I'll start picking up as I'm coming closer to position, because I know position is going to come to me. Because a lot of times when they lower their heads, a lot of times they'll slow down as well. So I want to make sure I don't override that shot and end up going by the steer or getting too close to make a harder shot. So I want to make sure that left hand picks up and reads that in time to be able to set my throw up to be able to get over the top of the horns so I can still catch them, because their horns are going to be lower than their shoulders. So I got to get close enough where I can get that shot pulled off, but not too close to where I can't get the slack out to handle the steer. So those are a lot of the things between that I'll manage right there, watching where my steers are going to make sure, for one, do I know what the steer does? 2, how to read the steer with which way his head's going if I don't know where the steers are going. Try to read their heads as best as possible. And once if you know what you have, then that's where I'm going to gauge where I break my horse in the front of the box to set up that shot.